refuse to lose. I'm built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse. Mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it, they told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. That's sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie, I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like Toby, keep on running toes, they gon' take a few to lose. Built to win, apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win. Yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counting me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse.
Welcome back to CTC. I'm your host, Carl, and I'm back with another episode. And today we will be reviewing the Big Ten. Sunday we reviewed the ACC. Had some highs, had some lows, had a record that I got correctly, just didn't predict the wins and losses all the way correctly, but I did get the record right. So we're doing it again for the Big Ten. And if you remember, or if you were here for the Big Ten preview last year, I was not alone. Before I bring up my guest, I do have to issue an apology. I have to issue an apology to Joe. I said SEC and Big 12. I did by myself. That was incorrect. I forgot Joe made his SEC debut last year with me. So Joe will be back on for the SEC review as well. I just did the Pac-12 by myself this year. But nonetheless, I do have to introduce our guest for the Big Ten review. He's been on the show obviously before because he did the Big Ten preview. It's my boy, Penn State fan, Trent. Say what's up to the people, Trent.
What's up, everybody? Carl, how's it going? Excited to be back and review everything I said last year. I know I probably spoke highly of the team I'm repping right now, my alum. Unfortunately, it wasn't the season I think I had predicted. I know you're going to remind me of that here shortly, so I'm excited to get into it, and always a pleasure to be here.
Hey, man, all I'm going to say is you ain't the only one. At least your team made a bowl game. I predicted my team to make a bowl game, and it didn't go that well. Had to make one up. Anyway, with that being said, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps the channel. It helps the network. Without further ado, we're going to hop right into the University of Illinois, where I predicted University of Illinois to have a 10-win season. I predicted Illinois to go 10-2, and they did have a really good year. They didn't have as good as a year I predicted, but nonetheless, they had a really good year. Started off the year really well. Won their first 3 games. Took an L to Indiana like I predicted, but who didn't? As Indiana went undefeated. We'll talk about that later. They did make a bowl game. They did. I think Illinois looked better offensively than I thought, but defensively was a little bit more shakier than I would have thought for Illinois. Luke Altmaier had a solid year. I think they had, I don't want to say shaky running back play. I just feel like it was, I don't know how to describe it. They had guys. I don't know how to really describe it, but I think another solid year. Whenever you can get 8 wins in the regular season at Illinois, 9 including a bowl win, I think that's a really great year for Illinois in itself. I had Illinois actually finished 8-4 in the regular season, 5-4 in conference play. Their over-under was 8.5. I did get that wrong. I had the over 8.5 with 10 wins. The under 8.5 actually hit. But I predicted them to beat Western Illinois, predicted them to beat Duke, predicted them to beat Western Michigan. I predicted them to lose to Indiana, predicted them to beat USC, predicted them to beat Purdue, predicted them to lose to Ohio State. I did have them beating Washington, which they lost. I did predict them to beat Rutgers, predicted them to beat Maryland. I had them beating Wisconsin, in which they lost. And then they won an ugly game against Northwestern, which they tried to give that game away. But I did predict that right. So I got 10 games right, 2 games wrong. They did win the Music City Bowl versus Tennessee late in that ball game. Tennessee made a push to take the lead, but I believe Illinois kicked the game-winning field goal to win it late in that ball game. A solid bowl win, even though I feel like Tennessee had no good wins all year last season. Still, nonetheless, you won a bowl game in Illinois with 9 wins. Trent, talk to me about Illinois.
Sorry, I had to turn myself off on mute there. I myself, I'm not going to run through the exact picks I made like you are, but I was higher on Illinois last season. The 8 wins is kind of what I expected. Altmaier, a great year. I do believe the memorable game was that win against USC. Really, their high-scoring offense their offense, I believe, kind of hit their ceiling in that game and kind of showed what they could have been all year. The flashes of Altmaier playing quarterback. Solid year for them. We'll obviously jump more into how they're going to bounce back from losing their starting quarterback this season in the next Big Ten episode. But overall, good year for Illinois in a tough Big Ten conference, obviously.
Yeah, so definitely great year by them. And you're right, because Luke Altmaier has made the jump to the league, which I don't even remember. I don't think he got drafted, but I think he is on the team. So it is going to be interesting to see how Illinois bounces back from having Luke Altmaier, which I think they'll be okay. I think they're in good hands. And also that Illinois USC game, you're right, that was a really good game. I think USC was up 9 late in that ball game in the fourth quarter, and Illinois rattled off the points necessary to come back and win. And I want to say that was also, was that at USC? I should turn the page, but was that at USC or was that at home? That was at home. So a great home win for Illinois to come back and beat USC, which USC was a great team in itself this season, but we'll talk about them later. We'll move on to Indiana. Nothing but high praises for them. Went undefeated, 16-0, 12-0 in the Big Ten, 12-0 in the regular season, 9-0 in the Big Ten. Then they won the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, 13-10, which Ohio State was my prediction to make the Big Ten, not win it. But when won the Big Ten championship game, earned the bye, earned the number 1 seed, beat Alabama. Right after that, destroyed Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Then it went and beat Oregon in the Peach Bowl, and finally beat Miami in a really good game in the national championship game, 27-21, to ultimately win its first ever national championship game. I said it before, I'll say it again. Cignetti, while at Indiana, has not lost to any team who has not played for the national championship. His 2 losses in 2 years at Indiana was to Ohio State not last season, but his first season, They got spanked by Ohio State, who won the national championship that year. And his second and only loss is to Notre Dame when they lost to them in the playoffs the season prior when Ohio State won a national championship. And Notre Dame is who Ohio State beat in the national championship to win it that season. So if you have not played for the national championship, you have not beat Kirk Cignetti, which is crazy because while at Indiana, he has already matched Indiana's total amount of bowl game wins in 2 years at Indiana. But they had some close calls though. Almost your team, Penn State, almost ended that undefeated season. If it wasn't for that crazy catch by Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone, who knows if Indiana finishes undefeated. The Iowa game, which Indiana somehow tried to let Iowa come back and win that late in the ball game. So definitely had some close calls. The Oregon game, Mendoza threw the pick 6. I want to say that was a Brandon Finney, but then answered and responded like directly after. So they had some close calls, but ultimately finished undefeated. I had Indiana going 10-2, 7-2 in the preseason. I got 10 games right because they were undefeated, so I got 10 games right, 2 games wrong. But I ultimately got the over 8.5 wins correct. The 2 games I had them losing to Oregon on the road, and I had them losing to actually Penn State on the road. And they won both of those, obviously. Trent, talk to me about Indiana.
Yeah, you pretty much said it all, but obvious program history year, undefeated, Heisman Trophy winner, first-round pick in the draft, 2 first-round draft picks with Cooper, who you mentioned made that great catch against Penn State to really play their solidified what was their closest game all season. So I was wrong about Indiana. I also had them losing to Penn State. I had them losing to Oregon. I had them probably losing to a few more teams on their schedule last season. I did not have them going undefeated. I could promise you that. Did not have them winning the national championship. But hats off to Cignetti. Really a year that's going to be remembered forever, not only in Indiana history, but in college football history.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the greatest 2-year turnarounds in college football ever. So definitely a memorable season. Who knows if he can replicate it? Cignetti is a great coach. He did a great job recruiting. But 16-0 at Indiana is insane. So I wouldn't bet on him doing it. But hey, man, he told y'all before, he told y'all again. Check his resume. All he does is win. So we'll move on to Iowa. And I'm going to let you know right now, I was so wrong about Iowa. Didn't even have Iowa making a bowl game. I had Iowa going 5-7, 3-6 in Big Ten play. I knew that they were getting Mark Gronowski coming from South Dakota State. My issues with Mark Gronowski was the same issues I have with most Iowa quarterbacks: is can they throw the ball efficiently and effectively? And while I won't say he was super perfect or super polished throwing the ball, I will say it was a little better than I thought, and his legs having that extra dimension was also very good with the talent that Iowa had in the backfield. I think they were super solid on offense, really good on defense. They got some games. The comeback against Penn State, I believe, at their house, that was a big win because Penn State on the ground killed them early. I believe that was the Nick Singleton game. He was killing them on the ground. The loss against Indiana, again, that was close, but I mean, it was Indiana, so Indiana won it. But some swing games, like the Nebraska game, Dylan Raiola was out for the season at that time, so they ended up winning a rivalry game there. That's a swing game on my schedule. Again, the Penn State one was a swing game, and I would say Wisconsin possibly was a swing game. But Wisconsin's quarterback also got hurt. Or projected starter, he got hurt in Billy Edwards in the Maryland game, I want to say. But I predicted them to beat Albany, lose to Iowa State, which that game actually ended up being close late. Iowa State looked to dominate that game, but Iowa made a run at the end. UMass game to win. I predicted them to beat Rutgers, lose to Indiana. Had them losing to Wisconsin. They won that game. I had them losing to Penn State. They won that game. I predicted them to beat Minnesota, lose to Oregon. I had them beating USC, which that game got sloppy. I want to say it was one of the rainy games. They still ended up losing, but they fought back. They fought to come back. I had them losing to Michigan State. Terrible year for us. They won, and I had them losing to Nebraska, and I just explained the whole Raiola situation. They won that game. I got 7 games right, 5 games wrong. They went 8-4, 6-3. I had the under 7.5 win total. They got it by the hook, so that was incorrect. And then they dominated. The final score doesn't say it, but they dominated Vanderbilt in that Reliant Quest bowl game win. And Pavia and the guys played. Iowa just did a great job stifling that offense. But they ended up winning 34-27. But again, the final score doesn't indicate how dominant Iowa was in that bowl game. Trent, talk to me about Iowa.
Yeah, again, all great points by you. I think Iowa was just kind of a product of their tough schedule. And a lot of those swing games you mentioned, they won a few that they maybe weren't supposed to. However, they kind of just lost the games I felt like they were supposed to. So the middle of the road Big Ten teams, those games are always going to be tough. But overall, a good season. Like you said, 6-3 in the Big Ten. So they're still proving that they're not an easy win within the conference. You still have to respect them, especially when you're going to Iowa. We all know how tough of an environment that is to play in. So I would say it was a successful season for them in the grand scheme of the college football world. You're probably a little upset if you're the Iowa Hawkeye faithful, but good season for them. Got the bowl win, like you said, pretty much dominated against Vanderbilt. Scoreboard made it look a little closer than what it was. And just a few bad breaks against some, believe 3 or 4 losses against all top 25 opponents at the time they lost to them. So
Yeah,
tough losses.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, if I'm an Iowa fan, the year they just had, I'm good. One game from a 10-game season. You still need to find a quarterback though. And I will also say, no, that was the year before. I was about to say, I also say they was averaging 40 points on the ground, but that was the year before. But still, great season. Now it's just finding that guy at quarterback. They still have not found a guy at quarterback. What's his name that was there before Gronowski and them that came from Michigan? K. McNamara. Funny enough, he's still in college. I think he was at East Tennessee State or something like that, but he wasn't the answer. Gronowski just left, but you can find somebody better than him throwing the football. So they still got to get a guy. I feel like if Iowa could find a guy at quarterback, that could make them dangerous. So just got to find that. But if you're ready, we can move on to Maryland.
Let's do it.
All right. Next up, we got Tomos Terps. Started off the season real hot, 4-0. Not even said in the chat. It's because of who y'all playing against. And the the floor fell from under them. Started off 4-0, ended the season 4-8, 1-8 in the Big Ten. I actually had them doing better than what they did. I had them going 6-6, 3-6, making a bowl game. Now I will say there was some bright spots in the season. Malik Washington, definitely the future of the program. If he just, with NIL and stuff, people leaving. If he decides to stay for the next 2 years, it's a bright future there. Is Octavian Smith still there? I can't remember if he's still there or not, but it was some bright spots there, mainly being Malik Washington. Mike Locksley kind of has to pull it together not last year, but the year before last. He said like the locker room and everybody was like, they lost focus. In the midst of his 4-0 run, he said like the season prior, they lost focus in the locker room. And this year kind of looked like the same. Now, it was a tough schedule, can't lie. You had tough games like Nebraska with Raiola. You had Indiana. You had UCLA. But then you had games like Rutgers. That's winnable. Michigan State. That's winnable. Michigan and Illinois, tough games. I will say it's a tough schedule, though, because even Washington, that's a tough game. Washington's a tough game. But overall, they went 1-8 in the Big Ten. I predicted them to beat FAU, beat Western Illinois, beat Towson. I had them losing to Wisconsin, but that was a game where they injured Billy Edwards. And just flat out dominated Wisconsin from then, and they won. I had them beating Washington, funny enough. They lost. I had them losing to Nebraska, beating UCLA, they lost. I had them losing to Indiana, beating Rutgers, they lost. I had them losing to Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State, which they all did lose those games. Again, starting off 4-0, finishing the season 0-8. I got 8 games right, 4 games wrong, and I incorrectly picked the over 4.5 wins for the University of Maryland Terps. Trent, talk to me about Maryland.
Yeah, the Terps are in a weird situation, like you spoke to. Malik Washington, fun to watch as a freshman, but Mike Locksley is in a tough position right now, a head coach. Last season was, I believe, a little underwhelming, especially after starting the season 4-0, like you talked about. The young guys in the locker room, he kind of just, I think, really accredited it to that being more youthful than anything, and not really knowing how to handle the season throughout. I think it really, like you said, they weren't supposed to win a lot of games, but losing that Rutgers game, that was kind of a early loss, I think, that put their season kind of on pace for what it was going to be. So tough situation for Maryland, tough season. I believe, if I remember correctly, I wasn't too high on them. As a Penn State fan, I don't ever remember myself being crazy high on Maryland. But they have some exciting things happening this offseason for next season, so we'll see how they bounce back. But they definitely have to figure it out. Otherwise, we might be talking about Mike Locksley out of the program.
Oh, yeah. The seat might be getting hot already for Mike Locksley, to be honest with you. But the thing that could save him is previous to this year and the year prior, he did have the bowl game win against NC State, which I want to say was the Duke's Mayo Bowl. And I think he had another bowl win prior to the NC State one, or vice versa. I want to say he's coming off 2 bowl wins. Huh?
When he had Tagovailoa.
Yeah. When he had Talia. I want to say he did get 2 bowl wins, and that might save the program. And I think the people in Maryland actually like him as a coach, like the front office and the guys that make the decisions at the University of Maryland. I think they like him as a person, as a coach. But you keep not making bowl games and season just keeps falling out. You can't keep saying that you lost focus because, like you said, then they'll turn somewhere else. So I think this is a major swing this season for him.
Yeah, and not to spoil too much, but if you look at their season ahead, it's hard to see where the wins are going to come. So,
not surprised. I look at Michigan State joint and I see why I went total the way it is. So I'm not surprised with Maryland either. But we'll move on to a team I don't like talking about. The University of Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan last year, I would say, I don't want to say they underachieved because to me, they did better than what I thought. But I would say to Michigan fans, it's probably an underachievement because one, the delusion of University of Michigan fans, but two, because of the hype of Bryce Underwood coming in. I believe they flipped him from LSU and gave him a lot of NIL money. And to be honest with you, and he's just a freshman, so I'll make that clear before I say what I say. I ain't see it though. What I saw from Bryce last year, I'm very confused on why he was rated so high. Maybe because of his athleticism, but as a quarterback, very underwhelming. But again, he's a freshman, so he has a lot of time to grow. But I had Michigan going 8-4, 6-3. They actually went 9-3, 7-2. So again, a little better than my expectations. But head coach is now gone. Sharon Moore gone. I think they was waiting for a reason, and the whole situation that happened with him and the lady in the front office was like the perfect scapegoat. Because I feel like they knew about that, but they was like, okay, cool. This is how we get them out and get a new head coach. And then they got, I forgot who they signed as their head coach. Oh, Cal Whittington from Utah. Then they went and got Cal Whittington from Utah. So out is Sharon Moore after a 9-3, 7-2 season with a bowl loss in the Citrus Bowl to Texas, which Bryce Underwood did not look in that bowl game either. The passing game for Michigan just didn't look like it was it. Okay, run game. Justice Haynes was like that. So, but I'll say I'll take that back. They had a really good run game. I'm tripping. Because Justice Haynes was like that. What's his name? Andrew Marshall or something like that. I think he was a freshman too, or Jordan Marshall, freshman running back. He was looking nice in that backfield. So, and I think that's the reason why Justice Haynes ended up transferring out is because of that freshman running back. But really good run game. I think solid defense. The passing game was terrible for Michigan this past year. I predicted for them to beat New Mexico. I predicted for them to lose to Oklahoma. Beat Central Michigan. I had them losing to Nebraska. They won. I had them beating Wisconsin. Had them beating USC, which they actually lost. Shout out Teddy and USC. Had them beating Washington. I had them losing to us. They won. That offsides call was terrible. We was not offsides. We got a turnover. Ended up flipping the momentum of the game. I feel like we could have won that game if that didn't happen, but we still lost. Had them beating Purdue, which they won. Beating Northwestern, they won. Beating Maryland, which they won. And losing to Ohio State for the first time in 5 years, which they lost. So I got 9 games right, 3 games wrong. I predicted the under 9.5 win total correctly. And again, they lost a bowl game, Citrus Bowl to Texas 41-27. Trent, talk to me about Michigan.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Watching Underwood play was a little thrilling and disappointing at times. I think all 3 games that four that they ended up losing, but 3 really, the USC game, the Ohio State game, and then the Oklahoma game, he just didn't really make the plays at any time you wanted him to, especially that early Oklahoma game. There were a lot of opportunities where you were just kind of waiting for Michigan to go down and score, and they just couldn't. So, again, without getting too much into next season, I think with the Utah coach coming over, the offensive line is something he always took care of. So I think the offensive line will be a priority at Michigan, maybe helping him out, Underwood, that is. But speaking of last season, with everything that happened, especially towards the end with the coaching situation, Michigan's obviously a desirable job. So you're going to kind of always fall upwards. In any instance like that, I feel, not that makes it better or worse, but in any case, they lost the games that I think were supposed to lose or at least be competitive in, and handled the games they were supposed to handle. And that just spoke to the youth of their quarterback and kind of the roster just not being a full championship contender roster.
Yeah, and not for nothing, like you said, Oklahoma playoff team. Now, whether some people believe they should have been a playoff team or not, it's up for debate. But a playoff team, the USC lost. They lost to the team that finished fourth in the Big Ten in USC. Texas bowl game loss. Texas was a really good SEC team that figured it out towards the latter end of the season. Was ranked top 5 preseason before the Ohio State game, and their last loss was to Illinois. I gotta flip back. I want to say it was to Illinois. It was to Michigan. Oh no, Michigan. That was the year before. Their last loss was to Ohio State, which made the Big Ten championship. Finished the regular season undefeated. So those 4 losses are not bad losses by any stretch of the imagination. But with that being said, we'll move forward to my alma mater, my disappointing football team, the Michigan State Spartans, which we had yet another super disappointing team. And I speak to the delusion of Michigan fans. I'm a delusional Michigan State fan because for the 3rd year in a row, I had us winning 8-9 games. And for the 3rd year in a row, we did not make a bowl game. So I'm only saying it because I am it. So before people try to say, like, hey, man, you're a hypocrite. Yeah, I'm acknowledging it. But anyway, terrible year. And I tried to tell Michigan State fans who killed me last year for killing Aiden Childs that he ain't it. And where is he now? At Northwestern. And best of luck to Aiden Childs. I wish you well. I'm just tired of seeing the goofy middle school mistakes. I didn't see you throw a pick trying to throw the ball out of bounds. Throw it away against Maryland. I was just tired of the mistakes, man. So he's gone. I forgot our quarterback. He was a freshman last year. But I like our quarterback coming in this year. In comes Pat Fitzgerald. I'm super excited for that. As we lost our head coach last year, but man, just a terrible year, man. I had us going 8-4, 6-3. We went 4-8, 1-8. We won our first 3 games, lost our next 8, and then we beat Maryland to win me some Chipotle in the Chipotle Bowl. So shout out to them for that. But I did respect the fight in the USC game. That offense was just too dynamic, and our defense sucked. But Jacoby Lane didn't even play in that game. Mekhi Lemon just went crazy in that game. The Nebraska game, I want to talk about the Minnesota game. That was disgusting. Disgusting officiating there because they called a pass interference on Minnesota. Move the ball up. We were ready to hike the ball, but because PJ Fleck cried for 5 minutes, they ended up taking the penalty away, moving the ball back, and said, down counts, there's no pass interference. And then literally the next or their overtime drive, the same thing happens. They keep it PI and we lose the ball game. That was disgusting. The Michigan game, we're not offsides. They called a phantom offsides. We get a fumble. We return it back to like the 40 or 50 or whatever. Call a phantom offsides. Justice Haynes scores on the next play up the left side of the field. Disgusting. Now, do I think we win that Michigan game? Yeah. Is it possible? Is it 100% guaranteed? No. But the Minnesota game was much worse. Then UCLA blew us out on our home turf. It was just bad year. I had us winning our first 3 games, which we won. And this should have been an indicator of why I thought this was a bad year. We went to double overtime with Boston College and had to squeak out a 2-point conversion win against Boston College. That's what I should have known this year, ain't it?
That was week 1, right?
Huh? No, that was week 2.
Oh, week 2.
We played Western Michigan week 1. Funny enough, Western Michigan won the MAC, though. Shout out to them. But we beat the MAC champs. Gotta celebrate somewhere. But we lost our next 8. We lost to USC, which I had us winning. Lost to Nebraska, had us losing. Lost to UCLA, I had us winning. Lost to Indiana, for sure, had us losing that. Lost to Michigan. Rivalry game. Might not catch me saying we're going to lose to them on here. Lost to Minnesota. Predicted that. Predicted the L to Penn State. Had us beating Iowa, which we lost. And then I had us beating Maryland, which we won. Went 4-8, 1-8. 8 games right, 4 games wrong, and I incorrectly picked the over 5.5 win total for Michigan State. Go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, you kind of said it all. Obviously, you know everything that happened, but is Nick Marsh still there?
No, he's at Indiana. He's with Signetti.
Wow, so he was a bright spot for you guys. Did he play? Was he there last year or no?
He was. He played.
Okay. So yeah, he was a bright spot for you guys. It's unfortunate he's not going to be back. I mean, yeah, Child's obviously off to Northwestern, so you guys are really just leaning into the whole Pat Fitzgerald era. I was a little bit higher on you guys last year. I think mostly out of respect for you and being on the show, but it was exciting that week 2 win. I do remember that being kind of a premier college football game, if you will, early on in the season. It was a fun one to watch and watch you guys beat Boston College, who I think I was actually pretty high on in the ACC. I think I might have projected you guys to lose to them. So shout out to y'all for winning that game. And then shout out for, taking care of Maryland. It's always appreciated. That was a fun game. That was at Ford Field, right?
Yes, sir. It was fun for you. We was up 3 touchdowns, almost blew it. It wasn't fun for me.
Well, it's always fun when Maryland loses. So I didn't remember the almost 3 touchdown blown lead. I just remember the win. But yeah, you guys are obviously in a rebuild kind of type thing with Fitzgerald. I think that's a great hire. Kind of just have to wash your hands of last season, and especially with so many guys leaving. Now that you got a new guy coming in, it's really just new beginnings.
Yeah, man. And then we got a lot of former players from the golden era of Michigan State on the staff. So I'm excited, but we're not talking about next year. We're just gonna keep it this past season. Got to relive it for one more day, and then it's all in the rearview mirror. And with that being said, we'll move on to Minnesota, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, which I think they just had a Minnesota season, pretty solid season. One might say mediocre. I wouldn't be 100% disagreement. I wouldn't be in 100% disagreement with you for saying that. But like his motto is, row the boat. Just kind of a row the boat year for Minnesota. I had them going 8-4, 5-4. They went 7-5, 5-4. They won the Rape Bowl in overtime against New Mexico. Jalen Smith, the game-winning touchdown. New Mexico fought their hearts out in that game. New Mexico at one point in time looked like they were punking Minnesota in that game. Like that, it was a really fun game to watch. But nonetheless, Minnesota got yet another bowl game, and I believe PJ Fleck is undefeated while at Minnesota in bowl games. So shout out to him for that. But yeah, man, they have a bright future with Drake Lindsey at quarterback, who I believe was a freshman last year. Darius Taylor, I think, is in his Darius Taylor actually might have left. Let me double check that. If Darius Taylor didn't leave, I'm pretty sure he's still at Minnesota. But I think he left, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's still there. So shout out. No, wait, what? He transferred? Am I tripping? No, yeah, he's still in Minnesota. I don't know why something said Virginia Tech. I'm like, I know James Franklin ain't still Darius Taylor. But anyway, yeah, he's still he is still there at Minnesota. So those are 2 very good bright spots. I think Drake Lindsey has the potential of being one of the best quarterbacks Minnesota has had in recent memory. Some people might say, what's his name? Tanner Morgan. I think that was there with Rashad Bateman and Tyler Johnson. But
yep.
Yeah, I think he could be better than him. So bright future ahead with PJ Fleck in Minnesota, but ultimately solid season. They had good wins, like that blowout win against Nebraska on the road on a night game, where they just absolutely ran the ball down Nebraska's throat. That was a great win. I had them beating Buffalo, which they won. I had them beating Northwestern State, which they won. The Cal game, they ended up losing. That was a game where I felt like it was JKS coming out party for Cal. I had them beating Rutgers, which they won. Losing Ohio State, which they lost. Beating Purdue, which they won. I had them losing to Nebraska, which they won. I had them losing to Iowa, they lost. I had them beat Michigan State, terrible win. I had them losing to Oregon, which they lost. I had them beating Northwestern, which they lost. Which that game was actually fun to watch. Real defensive at first, then offense started flying out of nowhere, and Northwestern ended up winning that game late. And it was Wisconsin, which they won. Again, going 7-5, 5-4. I got 9 games right, 3 games wrong, and I correctly predicted the over 8.5 win total for Minnesota. Talk to me about Minnesota, Trent.
Yeah, very PJ Fleck year, like you said. Good season overall. I feel like you just ran through the schedule. Again, kind of a team that beat everyone they were supposed to beat, and then lost to everyone they were supposed to lose to, other than those Nebraska Northwestern games. I did have them beating Nebraska, and I did not have them losing to Northwestern. But like you said, that was a fun game to watch. I believe it was at Wrigley Field, so that was
Yeah, the Northwestern it was at Wrigley.
so that was a cooler game to watch late in the season. Got to give a shout out to the local kid, Anthony Smith, 12 and a half sacks, led the Big Ten in sacks. So first team All-American. He probably is going to be coming back for his next year. So he's going to probably be a highly touted first round, if not second round draft pick coming out of Minnesota. So shout out to Ant. But yeah, very good year from Minnesota. Like I said, winning the games they were supposed to. And then just unfortunately didn't have the firepower to keep up with the Ohio States of the world or the Oregons of the world.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like you said, they don't have the firepower. Like they're really solid offense, but I think if you give Drake Lindsey more weapons, they'll be all right. Which he had solid ones at Minnesota. I'm blanking on the transfer name. I got there. Oh, I don't. This is not them. I flipped the page already. I'm blank. Was it Javon Tracy? I think Javon Tracy transferred in right from Miami of Ohio. I want to say. I'm trying to find it. Logan. Yep, Javon Tracy sure did. Yep. So they had some solid weapons, but like you said, just not enough firepower to hang with the bigger boys of the Big Ten. But we'll move forward and we'll talk about Nebraska, which Nebraska, I was really high on Nebraska. To me, this was a disappointing season, but again, they did lose Raiola in the USC game. And that returned to TJ Lateef, which he did not look good in my opinion. But he was put in a tough spot. Probably pretty much figured he wasn't going to play all year because of Raiola being there. Now you're thrusted into the lineup. So pretty much a tough spot to be in. But they got a big win to start the year at Arrowhead against Cincinnati, which, funny enough, Patrick Mahomes was in the building because everybody says Raiola is trying to literally be Patrick Mahomes incarnated. But he got the dub. They beat Akron. They started off, 6-0, but then went 1-5 down the stretch of the season. They did end up getting beat badly. They were competitive at one point, but then Utah turned it on in the bowl game in the Las Vegas Bowl. They lost 44-22. They went 7-5, 4-5. I had won 11-1, 8-1. I had their only loss being to Penn State, which they did lose to Penn State, but that wasn't their only loss. I predicted them to beat Cincinnati and Arrowhead, beat Akron, beat Houston Christian. I had them beating Michigan. They lost that game. That was a good game, though. I had them beating Michigan State. They won. Beating Maryland. They won. Oh, excuse me. They didn't start 6-0 because they lost to Michigan. I think they started off 5-1. I previously said 6-0. They did not start off 6-0. They started off 5-1. I had them beating Maryland. I had them beating Minnesota, which they lost at home in a night game, which is crazy. I had them beating Northwestern. They won. I had them losing to beating USC. Excuse me. They lost. I had them beating UCLA. They won. Losing to Penn State, they lost, and beating Iowa in the rivalry game, which they lost. For what it's worth, though, I do think that Matt Rule still had a good season at Nebraska because, again, your last 3 games, really 3.5, which in that USC game, they looked like they could have beat USC if Raiola would have finished the game. Emmett Johnson had a good game. But thankfully for USC, King Miller on the other side of the ball at running back had a great game for USC. Because the run game was working for them. But if Raiola finishes that USC game, who knows if they win that one? They got to a bowl game at Nebraska, but obviously at Nebraska, you're aiming higher. Even Matt Rule himself said we're aiming higher. So I think it was a solid year, and I think it was a year they could improve upon. And they got my boy Anthony Calandri coming in next year. Talk to me about Nebraska.
Yeah, I definitely remember last year on the show us having a pretty not a huge disagreement. We never have a huge disagreement, Carl, but I think Nebraska was one of the teams you were a little bit more into than I was. With that said, I think the season was a little disappointing for that reason. I think yourself and a lot of people around the college football world had Nebraska or had high hopes for Nebraska. So for them to go 7-5, bringing, I believe last season was Dana Holgerson's first year.
It was.
Yeah, so to bring him in with Raiola, Matt Rule obviously being there, you're not necessarily putting all your eggs in one basket, but you felt like last year was the year that the most momentum was behind the program in a while. And then, you're not expected to keep up with the Ohio States, but they did lose some games like Iowa late in the year. Even that Penn State game, preseason, that wasn't expected to be a win for them, but the way Penn State was playing late in the year, they had a lot of attainable. Minnesota, they got shellacked by Minnesota, like we just talked about. So they had a lot of attainable games that they could have won and just really didn't. So I would say for that reason, it was kind of a disappointing season. But like you said, Raiola's out, and they're going to have some. They're always very active in the transfer portal. I think Matt Rule led the country in the transfer portal last season, if I'm not mistaken. Or
13th in transfers. 13th overall. By 24/7 Sports.
Okay, so top 20. He's always going to be active in that. So just figuring out how to get his guys in there, get his program running. We're talking about a lot of these middle of the road Big Ten teams that are really working to get over that hump, especially with the last three national champions coming from the Big Ten. So just, I would say a disappointing season. They're figuring out what they got to do next, but the season they had last year was not one that I think they're hanging their hat on.
Yeah, I can definitely understand you as a guy who picked them to win 11 wins. To say it was a disappointment, I definitely can see that there. And I feel like Matt Rule knows that. I feel like the coaching staff knows that. Even players that are returning know that. So could be a even bigger chip on their shoulder. Like I said, they don't want the standard just to be to make a bowl game. They won a bowl game year previous against Boston College. I believe that was the Pinstripe Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of those. I don't know. I want to say it was the Pinstripe Bowl where they beat Boston College. But yeah, Nebraska at some point they're going to be wanting Big Ten possibilities, playoff possibilities. Speaking of the playoffs, I just heard the Big Ten is okay with the 24-team playoff format. Please stop. But yeah, so you're absolutely right. And one more thing I wanted to say was I incorrectly picked the over 7.5 win total for Nebraska, finishing 7-5. They missed it by the hook. But if that's all, we can move on to Northwestern.
Let's do it.
All right. So we'll move on to the Northwestern Wildcats, who made a bowl game. And that in itself at Northwestern is a job well done. I think his coach is David Braun, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I think he's having a very good career at Northwestern. His first year there, they beat Utah, I want to say, in the LA Bowl. I want to say they actually had like 10 wins. They were like one of the better teams in the Big Ten that year. Then the year previous, it was a down year. Not the year that they wanted, but this year they made a bowl game. So, hey, man, it's Northwestern. To consistently be a 9-10 win team at Northwestern, good luck. But you'll take a bowl game if you're a Northwestern fan, in my opinion, where they absolutely spanked Central Michigan in the game above Sports Bowl at Ford Field, forcing so many turnovers. The game was actually super close at one point. Like throughout the majority of the first half, the game was like 7-7. But then Central Michigan started to turn the ball over like crazy, and Northwestern capitalized and ended up blowing out Central Michigan. I had Northwestern going 4-8, 2-7. They actually went 6-6, 4-5 in the regular season. But funny enough, I got two games wrong. The two losses I had, they actually won. So I had them losing to Tulane to start the year. I had them beating Western Illinois. I had them losing to Oregon, beating UCLA, beating UL Monroe, losing to Penn State, which they won. Beating Purdue, losing to Nebraska, losing to USC, losing to Michigan. I had them losing to Minnesota, which they won, and I had them losing to Illinois. So again, I had 10 games right, 2 games wrong. The only 2 games I got wrong were them losing to Penn State and Minnesota, which they won. I had the over 3.5 wins correct total. I had that correct. But I would say this is a good year. Coming off a 4-8 season, you make a bowl game, win a bowl game. I think this is a good year for Northwestern.
Yeah.
Shout out Preston Stone.
Yeah, shout out Preston Stone. That's exactly what I was going to say. Great season from Preston Stone. Obviously, he came over from SMU and had a good year, like you just alluded to. I definitely did not have them winning 6 games, going to a bowl game. I can't remember 100%, but I had Northwestern near the bottom of the Big Ten in my predictions last season. Um, but like you said, Braun's done a great job with that coaching and that coaching staff. Had his team ready to play last year. I want to say I know that Oregon game early in the year. I know they ended up losing big, but I almost want to say it was like maybe close for a little.
Yeah, they put up a fight early for sure. I just feel like Oregon pulled away.
Yeah, so I mean, they had tough losses. You just went through the schedule, like Tulane to open the season. That's not an easy game. And then their losses in the Big Ten weren't that bad, other than really Nebraska, I guess, if you go back to the conversation I just had, and had that big win against Minnesota at Wrigley Field, like we talked about earlier. So that was a fun win for them to end the season, and then go on and win their bowl game, like you just talked about. So good win for them, Preston Stone. Now they got your guy, Childs, who's going to be there next year, like we alluded to a little bit earlier on, maybe. So we'll see how that goes for them. But definitely chalking 2025 up as a win for Northwestern. They are looking forward to, I think their new stadium's going to be done this year.
I can Google that. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think they're playing Penn State this year, actually, in their new stadium. So they're going to have some new things happen in this season, but we'll talk about that on the preview show. But yeah, shout out Preston Stone and the Wildcats.
Yeah, and even to your point, about the Oregon game, the Michigan game, that game was super winnable down the stretch. Michigan tried. It's just Northwestern couldn't capitalize. That game was close throughout the entirety of the game, and Michigan just unfortunately ended up winning it late. But that game was close. They definitely, and I want to say that game was also at Wrigley Field, and they definitely had a chance to win it. Northwestern's field, it will officially open Friday, October 2nd, 2026, where they will be hosting Penn State. Yes, sir. Yep. So y'all will be breaking in the new stadium. But absolutely great season. I mean, good season. I would say a real good season for Northwestern. Definitely a win. But we'll move on to the Big Ten runner-ups, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes, where they had their new DC and Matt Patricia after I always blank on his name. He's y'all DC. He went to leave y'all. I mean, went to go to y'all.
Jim Knowles.
I always blank on his name, and I think he's like the best DC in college football. It's so weird how that happens. But
it's Jim Knowles.
Jim Knowles went to Penn State. They replaced him with Matt Patricia and went undefeated. Great year. All that talent he had defensively, he knew what he was doing with it. They had a great year at Ohio State. I had Ohio State going 10-2, 8-1. The only loss in Big Ten play I had for Ohio State was Penn State. The other loss I had for Ohio State was the Texas game, which we all saw Arch Manning in that game look way worse than we thought. Now, I'm not saying this is the reason, but there was a conspiracy around that Arch Manning got hurt and Texas kept it under wraps, and that's why he looked as bad as he did, and that's why it looked like he picked it up later in the year. I'm not saying that is or isn't what happened, because to me, Arch still got to show me something. So, but what I am saying is that could be a possibility. But Ohio State had a great year. Great year. Made the Big Ten championship game after missing it the season prior, where Oregon and Penn State played against each other. Made the playoffs, was the second seed. Now ultimately ended up losing to Miami in the Cotton Bowl 24-14. Who Miami was this year's college football playoff national championship runner-up. So they didn't get a bowl win, but 12-0 regular season, 9-0 Big Ten season. Jeremiah Smith won the Big Ten receiver of the year, but not the Biletnikoff, over Big Ten receiver Mekhi Lemon, which is absolutely hilarious because how? But anyway, yeah, great year, man. Julian saying a lot of experience under his belt. CJ Donaldson, man, wish he's probably stayed at West Virginia because barely was used. And now Bo Jackson, the freshman, now sophomore, is definitely looking like to be the lead back of Ohio State in the future. So great season. They lost a lot of talent to the draft this year. Trent, talk to me about Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. Great season. Not much to say bad about it because they went undefeated. And outside of that 14-7 Texas win to open the season, they really, I don't remember them playing much of a competitive game all year until that Big Ten championship game that they lost. So it's honestly incredible to me. I'm glad I'm on this show because I've never had a platform to say it out loud, but I feel like that Ohio State team last year that lost the that didn't win a national championship could be better than the team prior that did win a national championship. I mean, it kind of blows my mind that they didn't. So I'm not going to say that they choked or anything like that because it was an amazing season. But when you look at the way the NFL draft went and just the amount of just real dogs and professionals they had on defense and really both sides of the ball with Jeremiah Smith not being draft eligible. Obviously, Julian Sainz, a freshman last year, but he played really well. And it's not like he needed to really be the guy who won them the championship. So overall, great season. Just really amazed that they didn't win at all because it was such a great football team. So back to the drawing board. They're always going to be, a premier program and in the mix for national titles. So just gotta roll with the punches and reload because you definitely just lost a lot of good guys to the league. So
yeah, first time to say is I got the under 10.5 win total for Ohio State incorrect. Had them at 10-2. They went 12-0. Secondly, I don't know if I agree with you, Trent, because Ohio State backfield is probably the decision maker for me with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson in that backfield. And then Will Howard, I would take over Julian Sain at quarterback. But, the defense is pretty much the same as in personnel. They lost, one D tackle and Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer was on that national championship team. He wasn't on the team this year that lost to Miami. I don't know, Trent. I might got to disagree with you. But it's
fair. It's fair.
Tough.
I just think the level that – and I agree. All those guys were on the team, so the athleticism was still there. But just – with the way that Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs played last season together, it is incredible. Like I said, the regular season, I might have to pull it up real quick. What was their closest game in the regular season?
Texas. Probably Texas.
Well, outside of Texas, I guess.
Oh, was it Michigan?
Here, I got it. Grambling State 70-0, 37-9, 24-6, 42-3, 34-16. Illinois 34-16, 34-0, 38-14, 34-10, 48-10, 42-9. Michigan was 27-9. So yeah, I guess technically Michigan would have been the closest.
No, it's a tie.
Or
Michigan Michigan and who was 34-16? Was that Illinois?
Yeah.
But I think Illinois scored like a garbage touchdown late to make it like that. Something like that. Yeah, but no, you're right. It was definitely dominant. It's a conversation.
Regardless, though, from a 9, 9, 10, 10, 14, 0, 16, 3, 6, 9, 0, 7. The defense was great.
Defense went super saiyan. Absolutely with you. And that's a testament to how good Patricia is bringing that professional scheme to a collegiate defense and collegiate atmosphere. So definitely. Oh, shout out my boy Lee. I ain't seen my boy Lee in a minute. Shout out my boy Leon in the comments. Appreciate you for tapping in, my boy. Definitely appreciate that. I don't even. Hey, Leon, you got a college football team? He a Ravens fan. I knew him since high school, but he a Ravens fan, Flock Nation. But I don't know if he got a college football team. But we'll move on from Ohio State.
We got Bucks Ravens this year. I said we got Bucks Ravens this year. What's up with it?
Oh yeah, you already know. You already know what's going on. We got that boy. I trust my boy against anybody. But we got Oregon. We're going to talk about Oregon next. And the Ducks. This is one season I got correct. I got the record correct. My boy Op in college football. He a Maryland fan. It's not even his fault why he's an Op because it's all Worm and Tomo fault. And it's really not Tomo fault. It's really Worm fault. But yeah, Maryland kind of.
I respect Maryland football fans, man. That's a tough thing to say. That's a tough thing to admit to.
It is. It really is. You get dominated. I have a quick backstory real quick. I don't know if I told you the story, Trent, but the high school I went to was Flowers High School, right in Maryland. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I used to play football and we was doing workouts, and a Maryland guy came, and this was around the time where Maryland was leaving the ACC to join the Big Ten. And we was working out, and I was like, I don't know why Maryland going to the Big Ten. Y'all about to just come to the Big Ten to get whooped. And he got so offended as a Maryland player. He was like, no, we're not. We're going to show y'all, da-da-da. Maryland's yet to show me anything. So, and that was 14 years ago. Not to age myself, like 14, 13 years ago. It's been nothing but belt. Sorry, Lee, but it's the truth. So I really offended a Maryland player while we was working out because I told the truth. But anyway, we'll move on to Oregon, which, like I said, I got this correct. I didn't get it perfectly correct because I got 10 games right, 2 games wrong, but I did have Oregon going 11-1, 8-1, and they went 11-1 and 8-1. The only loss I had for Oregon in my preseason was to Penn State. Yeah, that's going to be a narrative. It'll be explained why later. But my only loss for Oregon on the season was to Penn State, which they actually won in overtime or double overtime?
Double.
I want to say double overtime because I love to. Sorry to bring up bad memories, but
it's all good. It's all good. There was a lot of that was one of the bad memories last year.
Yeah, they actually won that game. The only loss they had was to Indiana, which I had them beat Indiana at home because it was at Austin. I thought the environment would be crazy. Indiana had them as a good team, but playing at Austin is really tough to get a win in, which Indiana actually got the win. So I got 10 games right, 2 games wrong. I got the over 10.5 win total correct. Oregon had a great year, though. Great year. Dante Moore had a solid year. Dante Moore, a lot of people thought Dante Moore, if it had came out, would have been the second overall pick, which, yeah, he probably would have to the Jets, to be completely honest. Do I think he should have been the second overall pick, or do I look at him as the second overall pick? Absolutely not. I think he made the right decision in terms of his skill set to go back to college, but in terms of the money, no, because I don't think he's ever going to be looked at that high in next year's draft class. But I could be wrong. I'm not 100% right, as y'all can see. But funny story with Dante Moore. So for those who don't know, he played at UCLA 2 years ago. And it was a streak where Dante Moore would start a game with a pick six. The Washington State game, I think it was, I can't remember the other team, but Washington State was for sure one of them. And in the Indiana playoff game, I brought up that fact. And sure enough, he started off the pick six to D'Angelo Pons in that game. So I was like, see, man, Dante Moore back to his old ways. But they had a great season. Like I said, Dante Moore, obviously Kenyon Sadiq had a great year. Malik Benson had a better year, bouncing back from the Florida State season. So my boy Brandon Finney, the freshman, the defense was actually pretty solid, actually really good for Oregon, which is different. It's normally not like that, but great year for them. Unfortunately, they just ran into Indiana in the Peach Bowl, which was the third round, of the college football playoff. But it was a really great year for them. They beat JMU in the first round, 51-34. They beat Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Gave them a shutout, 23-0. And then they lost to Indiana 56-22, which dominant performance again by Indiana in the Peach Bowl. And now they got my guy, Dylan Raiola, with Dante Moore, which is funny. They saying that it was impossible. It can't happen. But they were saying due to the Brendan Sorsby thing with Texas Tech, that Dylan Raiola can do the funniest thing in college sports ever, and then transfer to Texas Tech, which Patrick Mahomes is alma mater. But that can't happen because there's no portal right now. But go ahead, talk to me about Oregon, Trent.
Yeah, that would be hilarious, actually. But you kind of hit it on the head again with everything you said. I'm glad you did bring up the defense because they played a lot better, and I think they're both edge rushers. They had the I'm not going to even try to pronounce his name right, but they had like Ugalele and Tuatoy, the two Samoan edge rushers. They were studs, and I think they're both coming back. Like you said, the offense played great. I feel like if there was one place to kind of point at that was bad last year, it was their secondary, and I think that's why they ended up both losses being to Indiana, and they were such high scoring losses because they just couldn't guard Fernando Mendoza or Cooper or really have any answer for the pass game,
Yeah.
or the game plan that Cignetti drew up. So they were, I really think, a secondary away from being one of the better, they were already one of the better teams in the country. But unfortunately, when you get to championship football and you start playing these better quarterbacks, I think those issues will sneak up on you. So,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. I think Dante Moore, I can't really be mad at him for not coming out, but with this year's quarterback class versus next year's quarterback class, I think he would have given himself a little bit of an advantage in position by coming out this year.
And shout out to Rivals Goat for tuning in. To be completely honest, I'm not even sure why people think next year's class is like super prolific, like one of the best classes ever. I'm totally on the opposite side of the fence of that. And to answer your question, this is a college football stream. I don't know what that word is you said, so I don't want to put that comment up here, but it's a college football stream recapping the Big Ten. Appreciate you for tuning in. But yeah, Oregon had some pieces in the secondary that was their weak point. I agree with you in terms of the defense in its totality. But they had some pieces nonetheless. And man, Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, a lot of people couldn't control those two guys. Yeah, man. But like we said, great year for Oregon. I was actually happy I got a record picked correctly. Wasn't a perfect one. The perfect team that I got perfectly correct is still coming up. But Trent, I've been leading off these topics. It is now your turn, because we are talking about the Penn State Nittany Lions, and I will be following your lead.
I wonder why I get to lead this one off.
I do that for everybody up here. Don't do that.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, hey, man, it's where do you start? Obviously, I was way wrong about my prediction last year. I came on the show, and I'm pretty sure I said Penn State was going undefeated. I believe I said Penn State was winning the Big Ten. I think I said Penn State was winning the national championship. So any type of stickers or laughing emojis or whatever someone has to add to the show later post-production, that's fine by me. But yeah, I mean, what a epic collapse of proportions, or of epic proportions rather. I mean, it really starts kind of with that Oregon game that we just talked about. You go to double overtime, you're home early in the season. Everything's going right. You make a really good comeback in the fourth quarter, even though you played bad all game. Momentum's kind of on your side. You go to overtime, you score, get a stop. You go to double overtime, you're trying to score, and you throw a pick, and that's your first loss of the season. And then what do you do after that? You bounce back with 2 back-to-back losses against teams you're not really supposed to be losing to, in UCLA and Northwestern. Not to mention UCLA is basically playing with an interim coach, and I believe the quarterback averaged, Nico was averaging basically very bad stats until Penn State showed up.
They were winless.
Winless. Well, yeah, they were winless. And Penn State's defense just couldn't buy a stop that game. They got 42 points scored on them. And it was just horrible. Everyone didn't know what to do. They thought we were just going to bounce back after the Oregon loss and handle business like normal. And then they didn't. And then you parlay that with, like I said, losing to Northwestern at home. People are shocked. There's pictures of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen on the bench just looking basically disengaged and just really broken down from what's going on. And then you get the news that James Franklin's been fired after 3 losses in a row and starting the season 3-0. So you're 3-3. You basically had people like me and everyone in national media talking about how this was Penn State's year to win a national championship. because you lost in the semifinal of the college football playoff the year prior to that. And now you find yourself 3-3 coachless. So you come out, you hire Terry Smith, the interim, lose to a good Iowa team, tough. And then you go on the bye week and you have to play number 1, Ohio State, and number 2, Indiana coming out of it. So it just doesn't get much easier for you. And then eventually, things calm down and they end the season on 4 straight wins, 3 in Big Ten play, and then winning the Pinstripe Bowl against Clemson, who was also a preseason top 5 that finished the season 7-6. Well, 7-5. 6-6, I believe, actually, because they would have went 7-6 with the bowl win.
I think they went 7-5. I just did the ACC,
Yeah.
so it's right here. I think they went 7-5, and because they lost to y'all in the bowl game, they went 7-6.
Yeah, so Penn State was 7-6, and then 3-6 in Big Ten play. So I guess they would have been the same. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say what went wrong and when it went wrong. Like I said, for Penn State fans, I believe it was after that double overtime loss to Oregon, because it felt like, oh, here we are again, not winning a big game in the James Franklin era, especially at home when you had the momentum on your side. And then you parlay it with those 2 big losses to UCLA and Northwestern. The UCLA shocked everyone, and the Northwestern was kind of just the icing on the cake for, obviously, the administration. So I'm happy that Drew Aller, he did get injured in the season. I'm not happy that happened. I am happy that he recovered healthy and is getting a shot in the NFL. I'm also happy that Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, the Ravens guard, drafted Vega. Yep. So there's a lot of Penn State players that are getting their NFL opportunities that I think would have probably been higher drafted, if not for the way the season went. So glad that the roster for the most part stayed healthy. I was glad to see the camaraderie that came around Coach Terry Smith late in the season, because he is a Penn State guy. So yeah, I mean, it was a very disappointing season overall, from what the expectations were prior. But then once you were in the middle of it and you were kind of just trying to navigate the ship to the end of it, it was a cool finish to see Terry Smith carry the team to 4 straight wins in a bowl win. But not the national championship season you were hoping for or predicting.
Yeah, so before I'm gonna start by saying, Trent, I can't even laugh at you because I predicted the same thing. I had Penn State going 12-0. I had them winning the Big Ten. I had them winning the national championship. So if you're gonna laugh at Trent, you gotta laugh at me too, man, because I was high on Penn State too. But like you said, man, it just the bottom fell out. Oregon game. You think, man, tough loss, interception at the end of the game. They blew it, but hey, we'll bounce back, handle business as usual, just like you said. And then UCLA comes in, or you go into UCLA as 17.5-point favorites and get spanked. And then the questions happen like, what's going on? How is this happening? And like you said, man, just fell out the bottom. James Franklin gets fired. I think y'all fired him, but hired up, in my opinion, with Matt Campbell. I'm going to ask you after I'm done how you feel about that. But, yeah, unfortunately, very, very, very underwhelming season for Penn State, just like you said, Clemson. Which, funny enough, Penn State-Clemson was my national championship game. Now, they met the Pinstripe Bowl, but that was my national championship game. And I had Penn State winning, which they won the Pinstripe Bowl. They won 22-10. But yeah, man, I had y'all beating Nevada, beating FIU, beating Villanova, beating Oregon. Well, like I said, 12-0. So I got 6 games wrong, 6 games right. I had the over 10.5 win total, which was obviously wrong. It just seemed like, I don't know, that Oregon loss, like you and I just said, it just seemed like it devastated y'all, and y'all just couldn't bounce back from it. But with that being said, like you said, guys still getting opportunities in the league. Vega got drafted. Danny Deni Sutton, now with Micah in Green Bay, he got drafted. That was actually my prediction for Defensive Player of the Year. that did not happen, obviously. But Nick Singleton, who I wanted to be a Raven, but we got Adam Randall, which I'm not too mad at. He's drafted. Forgot where Nick Singleton went, but he went somewhere good.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I think he's in potential to get plays at Tennessee with Cam Ward. So shout out to him. But enough about y'all season. I don't want to keep bringing up bad memories for you, but like I said, man, how do you feel about the Matt Campbell hire? Because I love it for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. I don't think anyone in the Penn State community, at least from what I understand, is mad about the Matt Campbell hire. I think it was just the fact that it took 27 weeks to happen after the fact that, we basically didn't have a head coach on signing day. So Penn State only had like 2 commits actually sign on signing day because that was the only people that wanted to sign because we didn't have a head coach. So it gets a little deeper in that, and it could be a different episode a later time for the preview. But overall, I'm happy about it. It's like you said, I think they did. I don't know if they hired up necessarily, but they made a very good hire who didn't have the resources that a Penn State has. So we'll see how he handles those. I do like Matt Campbell. I do like Rocco Becht. I like them even when they were when they were at Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. I mean, it's a good hire. It seems like he's being Campbell is he's being well received. We're basically the Penn State Hawkeyes at this point, or Cyclones rather.
I was about to say that's very disrespectful.
Yeah. We're basically the Penn State Cyclones at this point with the amount of transfers that have come over, but. It'll be fun. It's exciting. Anytime there's change happening, it's exciting because it's new. So I just hope that the fan base is careful. You got to be careful what you wish for at times, and sometimes the grass isn't greener. So I just hope that everything works out for the best, obviously.
Yeah. And to answer your question, no, Rivals Go. My apologies. I meant to answer. That's why that comment's been up there so long. No, this is college football. We were reviewing our previews in college football last season. I don't really do college basketball previews because when I do my college football ones, I do all the power conferences and all the games they play, which 12 games is stressful enough. 30 in college basketball is insane. So I don't really do previews in college basketball because of
also
that.
Also the non-conference games.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Oh my Lord. It takes me like 20 minutes to do one team, 20 to 30 minutes to do a team. It would take me hours just to do one team.
You'd be like, Carl, tell me about Prairie View A&M.
Man, no. Yeah, I'm sorry. No. We just going to do college football previews only, but I appreciate you being here if you're still here. I did take a while to answer your question. The last thing I'm going to say before we move on is I think both coaches ended up being in good positions. I predicted James Franklin going to Virginia Tech. He still gets to recruit the same areas he recruits at Penn State while having less expectations on him at being at Virginia Tech than at a Penn State. While I think Matt Campbell gets a better job, like you said, better resources. Expectations are now higher than they were at Iowa State, but he made expectations kind of high at Iowa State while being there. And I think he'll get the kind of players that buy into his whole attitude at Penn State, just like Iowa State. So I think both coaches ended up being in great situations. And I think also it took y'all a while to get a head coach because it probably took some convincing for Matt Campbell to leave Iowa State. I didn't see him leaving. I thought he might retire a Cyclone head coach. So yeah, y'all probably took a lot of convincing.
Well, I also don't think he was I don't think he was necessarily first on Penn State's list. But he ended up, it ended up being right place, right time for everybody. So it worked out.
Yeah, but with that being said, Trent, you don't have to relive this anymore because we're going to move on to a team who had the exact season I thought they would have, and that is the Purdue Boilermakers. I perfectly predicted Purdue's season. I had Purdue going 2-10, 0-9. They went 2-10, 0-9. I had them winning their first 2 games and losing the rest of them, and that's exactly what Purdue did. Absolutely terrible season for Bray Odom and the Boilermakers. But funny enough, this was an improvement of the season prior. Last year, Purdue went 1-11, 0-9. This year, they went 2-10, 0-9. So one more win in the non-con for the Purdue Boilermakers than last season, man. It's nothing really to say about this Purdue team. terrible. They were in some ball games, but it's just a terrible season. Anytime you win less than 3 games, no matter what the expectation is, it's got to be a failure. So, luckily though, it's Barry Odom's first year. He hasn't really even got his type players in yet. But this is an awful season for Purdue. I got the under 3.5 win total correctly for Purdue. Talk to me about Purdue, Trent.
Yeah, I want to say I was probably pretty close in my prediction on Purdue as well. After seeing them be 0-9 the year prior, I wasn't expecting too much out of them. It was kind of weird to review these guys because they actually scored a decent amount of points in their losses last year. So I feel like their struggles really came on defense. I mean, they lost to USC 17-33. They lost to Notre Dame 30-56. They lost to Illinois 27-43. So it wasn't a team that they lost to Michigan 16-21. So it wasn't a team that necessarily wasn't scoring the football. They just had their issues on defense. But yeah, it's going to be tough for Barry Odom and Purdue to, really compete in the Big Ten. I feel like for the near future, going 0-9 back-to-back years in the Big Ten, you would have to hope that they're going to improve a little bit and at least win one. But they just got to be more consistent all around. They're through multiple quarterbacks, I believe, last year.
Yeah, I'm blanking on who the original starter was.
Yeah, I'm blanking on who the original starter was too, but I don't think he finished the season, nor should you when you're 0-9. So they just have a complete makeover to do within the program. But yeah, not much really good to hang your hat on, unfortunately, other than the fact that they were scoring. They just got to figure out a way to Barry Odom's got to figure out a way to get a new coordinator in there or game plan on how to do that.
Yeah, and real quick, 2 things. One, that Michigan game kind of I believe they played Michigan. I turned away from them, but I want to say they played Michigan right before Northwestern. No, when did they? Oh, they played Minnesota before they played Northwestern. I think that game was kind of close, and I took like Purdue plus like 3.5. I think I actually took them to win that game.
Yeah, they lost to Minnesota. They lost to Minnesota 20-27.
Yeah, and then boy, did Northwestern spank Purdue.
Yeah,
I was so sick.
19-0.
Yep. I was sick because I bet on Purdue. But second thing I want to say is Purdue's struggles to win a Big Ten game is nothing but a testament of how great of a head coach that Jeff Brom is. Because Purdue was just in the Big Ten championship, 4 years ago under Jeff Brom? 5 years ago under Jeff Brom when they lost to Michigan?
Yeah, Jeff Brom and
with Aiden O'Connell?
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
with Louisville.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And
who was Jeff Brom's? Who was the quarterback before? Or wasn't Plummer there too for a little bit, or was he?
Jack Plummer? No, Jack Plummer was at Cal, I want to say.
But I thought Plummer and Brom were together.
Maybe you actually might be right, but I don't think he was playing. If that's the case, I want to say O'Connell was there for a little minute, but I'm googling it now. Jack Plummer. Well, shout out to him. He's at the UFL balling. Oh, he was at Purdue. Dang, he was at Purdue since 2018. 2018 to 2021. Then he went to Cal for a year, then Louisville in 2023.
Yeah, that's right. Because when Brom got the Louisville job, he went to Louisville.
Yeah, so shout out to him. Shout out to Coach Brom, man. Because again, not only was Purdue just recently in the Big Ten championship, Western Kentucky has not won the Conference USA since Brom has left. So just
that was like Penn State. That was a few years back when Penn State played Purdue on like opening night. I think it was a week one.
With Charlie Jones, Jones, and yep.
It was like that was a tough place that wasn't an easy environment to play in. Like,
shoot, they beat us right after we beat Michigan with like a top 3 school or something like that, and beat us at their crib. I was so mad. I remember that like it was yesterday. But enough about Purdue. Unfortunate season for them.
R.I.P. Rondell Moore.
Yes, R.I.P. Rondell Moore. Absolutely, Purdue legend for sure. Went crazy against Ohio State. We'll move on to Rutgers University, which Rutgers, I was close. I got 11 games right. I got one game wrong in the Rutgers season, and that was the Maryland loss. They won. That was the only game I got wrong. I had Rutgers going 4-8, 1-8 again with that flip beating Maryland. They went 5-7, 2-7. But I'm gonna say this is a disappointing season for Rutgers, man. Rutgers went 7-5, 4-5 last year. Made a bowl game, brought a lot of talent back. Brought Ian Strong back. Ethan Kelly-Agmana's back, the quarterback. I'm blanking on the other receiver they had that they brought back. Oh my God, let me see if I wrote it down. No, I didn't. But they brought back some talent. Now, they did lose Kyle Monunga, who had a great rookie season with the Bears. But they had another running back come in, C.J. Campbell and other guys come in and contribute. They got DT Sheffield coming in from North Texas. So they got guys. It's just a bad season going 5-7, 2-7. I did predict the under 5.5 win total correctly, however, for Rutgers. But, yeah, man, not making a bowl game at Rutgers. And I'm looking at the schedule. I feel like a bowl game was obtainable. Some games they could have won. I feel like they could have beat Iowa. Now, I'm saying before the games. I don't remember these scores of some of these games. But preseason, they could have beat Iowa. And that would have been a flip game to make a bowl game. The way Penn State played, well, they rallied, like you said, under Coach Terry. But that was a winnable game, depending on how Penn State season was shaking out. Unfortunate. Just unfortunate that they were one game off from making a bowl game. But talk to me about Rutgers, Trent.
Yeah, I agree with making the bowl game the season before. Kind of disappointing for Shiano. I did really like, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but Ethan.
Oh, Kelly-Agmana's.
Shout out to Joe, Commanders. I think he's third string for the Commanders right now. But, yeah, I mean, disappointing season when you have a quarterback who gets drafted to the NFL, and you're basically trying to build on a season that was before a bowl game, a bowl season. So you're going backwards. Can't really say you had a better season than what you had before. I agree with you completely about winning some games that they should have. Potentially the Iowa game or the Minnesota game. Washington is a good team. They lost to Illinois, and like you said, that Penn State game at the end of the year, they were actually in it the entire game until the end. So they just didn't. The difference between the 5-7 and the 6-6 bowl appearance was really those Big Ten fringe games that we talk about, and they really had the roster, I think, to win some of those, especially with, like I said, an NFL quarterback. So.
And I remember. Oh, my fault. Go ahead. My fault.
You're good. I was just saying down here for them. So, hopefully Shiano figures it out and they build on what they had.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I remember that Iowa game now, and that game, they was in it. They were at home, night game. Iowa, Rutgers, they were trading punches back and forth. It's just Iowa, late game, got it done. And I want to say that was like a revenge game for Iowa because of the season prior. I know Washington, they beat Washington the season prior, and Washington got their revenge. But, yeah, man, the swing games, those games, like you said, those French Big Ten games, that be the difference. And that was the difference this year for Rutgers. But we'll move on to probably the last team I can brag about being remotely close. No, well, it's one more team left. But don't worry, we're going to get – it was – Penn State and Michigan State ain't the only two teams I was completely wrong about. And we're going to move on to UCLA, the UCLA Bruins. Now, I got their regular season record correct. I didn't get their Big Ten record correct. I had UCLA going 3-9, 1-8. They went 3-9, 3-6. And funny enough, they lost their non-conference games. Utah, which nobody blames them for losing to Utah, but then they turn around and lose to UNLV, which I actually predicted. And they lost to New Mexico, which I didn't predict. So they went 0-3 to start the year in preseason and not preseason, non-con games. And then, they went 0-3 non-con because Big Ten plays 9 games, 3 non-con. So went winless in the non-con. I had them beating Utah, which they lost. I, again, predicted UNLV correctly as a loss. I predicted them to beat New Mexico, which was a loss. I predicted them losing to Northwestern. I had them losing to Penn State, which they won. Losing to Michigan State, which they blew us out. They beat the mess out of us at our crib. I had them losing to Maryland. They won. I had them losing to Indiana. They lost. I had them losing to Nebraska. They lost. Losing to Ohio State. They lost. I had them beating Washington. They lost. And I had them losing to USC, which they lost. I got 6 games right, 6 games wrong. I did get the under 5.5 win total correctly. But for UCLA, this was a terrible season, even though it was the season I thought they would have. I want to say Deshaun Foster got fired, 2-3 games into the season, if I'm not mistaken. Nico Iamaleava looked bad, and I was never a Nico fan, even at Tennessee. I said they were winning in spite of Nico Iamaleava. Looked right here this season. He got a lot of figuring out to do because he is a senior now, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had 2 years, unless he's a redshirt junior. But that eligibility is running out, and he was one of the top quarterbacks in his draft class, and now he's looking to be undrafted into the league. So, I mean, he has some arm talent, but boy, his decision making is terrible as well. And it goes back to me at the end of Tennessee, Arkansas at the end of the game where he made a terrible decision. But yeah, man, terrible season for UCLA. They got a lot to figure out, man, because I wouldn't say UCLA is a hotbed of talent in this current state of college football. So talk to me about UCLA, man.
Yeah, a couple of things on Nico while you were talking. He's a redshirt junior.
Okay, so
yeah, so you touched on most of it. Deshaun Foster out after the 3 bad games start in non-con. Really, the loss to New Mexico, who's not a bad team, but probably should have been handled a little bit better than the 25-point loss. But I know I butchered it earlier, so I wanted to pull it up. When I was talking about Penn State, Nico against Penn State, 17-24, 2 touchdowns, 166 passing yards, 16 carries for 128 yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So 5 touchdowns, over 300, close to 300 yards. That's really where UCLA's seasons, sparked, I guess, for a lack of better terms, because they did beat Penn State, they did beat Michigan State, and then they beat Maryland. So they went on that little 3-game win streak after Tim Skipper took over and went on that little 3-game run for him. Unfortunately, that was the only 3 wins they had of the season. But good to get 3 wins in conference, I guess, if you're going to hang your hat on anything. Tim Skipper went, 3-5, I believe, as the interim. So
3-6
or 3-6 as 3-6. So not easy to do, but to your point, UCLA is kind of another program in the Big Ten right now that's looking for that facelift and identity to compete in the Big Ten, because there's a lot of teams, and with them being an expansion coming from what was the Pac-12 to now being in the Big Ten, they got to kind of figure out their position in the conference and pivot and how they're going to recruit and how they're going to be competitive. But pretty bad season, obviously. You pay that money to Nico. You want him to come in and perform, and then you don't really have any big wins in the year other than Penn State, but that's hard to celebrate when you're already 0-3 and your head coach isn't even in the building anymore.
Yeah, Bob Chesney, new head coach of UCLA, has his work cut out. And while he did a great job at JMU, he didn't have to turn around JMU. Signetti left JMU in great hands. He got to turn his program around, which later on after review season, I will be doing my coaching carousels where I give coaches grades or school grades on the coaches that they hired. So that'll be coming up in about 3 weeks to a month. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, UCLA got a lot of work to do. But that's enough fun for me, because now it's time to get clowned by Teddy and Griffey if he's watching as we move on to USC, man. I had fun enjoying saying that, hey, look, I got this right, because USC I got completely wrong. I had USC not even making a bowl game. I had USC going 5-7, 3-6. And before anybody say anything, it's not because of the offense why I be so down on USC. I be so down on USC because of the defense of USC. And I be like, man, USC got to show me on the defense end. I know your offenses be super prolific. Shout out Lincoln Riley for that. But his defenses be terrible. And I feel like the defense this year was kind of solid. It wasn't great. by any stretch of the imaginations, but I mean, it was solid with the offense that they had. So shout out to them. I had them going 5-7, 6-3. They went 9-3, 7-2. Again, I think they were what, fourth in the Big Ten. So absolutely congratulations to that. They they actually lost the bowl game. Oh God, I remember that. That loss to TCU was horrendous. Now I believe Jacoby and McCallum both did not play in that game. They had another freshman receiver ball out, just like when Miller Moss balled out against Louisville when he threw them 5 touchdowns. I want to say Jacoby Lane actually went crazy that bowl game as well. But man, that bowl game, I think they forced like a second and very long and like gave up a game when losing touchdown off either a run up the sideline or a screen pass, which they had in the backfield up the left sideline. I can't remember, but they lost the Alamo Bowl 30-27 to overtime to TCU. I predicted them to win their first 3 games. I predicted them to beat Missouri State, Georgia Southern, and Purdue, which they all won. I had them losing to Michigan State, which they won. Had them losing to Illinois again, which they lost. I had them losing to Michigan. Shout out to them. They won. Had them losing to Notre Dame. That sucks because they fumbled late in that ball game. And after scoring a touchdown, gave up a kickoff return touchdown to Adrian Price, which pretty much put that game away in rainy conditions. Had them losing to Nebraska. They won. I had them beating Northwestern, they won. Had them losing to Iowa, they won. And I had them losing to Oregon and beating UCLA, which they did do that. But ultimately, great season for USC, man. I think this was one of the better seasons they had. This is probably the best season they had in the Big Ten. Now, their last couple years in the Pac-12, they made the Pac-12 championship with Caleb Williams and lost. But this is probably the best season they had in the Big Ten. So great season from Lincoln Riley. He lost a lot of talent, but he's looking to it. He's always going to recruit and replace the offensive side of the ball with super talent at USC. So not really worried about that, but a great season. And he gets Jaden Ivey back. So talk to me, Trent.
Yeah, you said a lot of it. I'm glad you brought up the defense. USC defense coordinator Deanton Lynn. He's the new Penn State defensive coordinator. So excited for him to bring what he brought to the USC defense last year. Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, they were probably 2 of the, more box office guys to watch when you turned on your television in college football this past year. I agree with you, 7-2 in the Big Ten, so definitely their best Big Ten year. We did talk about how good of a game that was against Illinois early in the year. Really, that's kind of the only game on their schedule that they lost that I probably would have liked to see them win. They've obviously been competitive with Notre Dame and Oregon in the past. So not to say that was out of the picture, but 2 games where they were probably the underdog if I had to imagine. And then the Alamo Bowl game against TCU, which, again, I'm not sure who played and who didn't. They lost, but it was a close game. So I think there's a lot to take away from this season. Like you said, they're getting Maeva. They're getting Jaden back, so that's going to be good for the trajectory of their team and their program. When you have that good of a year and then you bring back your starting quarterback, obviously you have to replace some of the weapons, the skill positions like you talked about, but they usually have a good hand on that in the recruiting, like you already mentioned. So I believe I probably had them a little worse than what they ended up, but I've always liked USC growing up. Before they were in the Big Ten, back in the day, I was a big Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart guy, so always pulling for them when they're not playing Penn State. Unfortunately, them being in the Big Ten now, it makes it a little harder to do that, but good season overall.
Shout out USC, man, because I definitely was a fan of them too. RP Joe McKnight. I was a Joe McKnight fan because I wasn't a USC fan, but I would watch them be excited because of what Pete Carroll and them built. So I 100% agree with that. But we got to move on, USC. Y'all, Teddy, you can grill me. Griffey, you can grill me. It's all part of the game. We got to move on, though, to another team I was completely wrong about, the Washington Huskies. And before I start, I would like to say I don't know how Jamal Williams is going to win his team back, but he better find out some way to win his team back because he was like, man, I'm going to stay with y'all. Somebody offering him more money? Nah, I'm gone. Hey, you can't leave. Oh, I'm back. Like that whole Damar Williams situation after the season was insane. I don't know how he's going to win the team back, but nonetheless, I had Washington going 5-7, 2-7. They actually went 8-4, 5-4, and absolutely destroyed Boise State in the LA Bowl, 38-10. Almost a 10-win season with 9 wins total on the year. I would say this was a successful season for Washington. I'm looking at the losses. Oregon projected loss. I mean, who's going to be mad? I mean, obviously, as a Washington fan, you want to beat Oregon, Pac-12 ties, stuff like that. But if you take yourself out of the realm of that, it's not a bad loss. Ohio State, not a bad loss. You have Michigan, not a bad loss. And then you have Wisconsin, which is a terrible loss. That's the only loss that was terrible. And that game was terrible. It was at Camp Randall in Wisconsin. I believe it was rainy conditions. I believe somebody ran like a fake punt that shouldn't have ran a fake punt or something like that. I don't even think – was there a touchdown score in that game? I think it was Washington might have scored the only touchdown or something like that in that game. That game was just nasty. I remember that game being very nasty. That's the only loss if you look at the schedule where you like can't happen. And
13-10, so I think there were
yeah too. But man, that game was filthy, very filthy. But overall, great season. I had them beating Colorado State, which they won. UC Davis, which they won. Washington State, the Apple Cup, they won. Had them losing to Ohio State, they lost. I had them losing to Maryland, they won. I had them beating Rutgers, they won. I had them losing to Michigan, they lost. I had them losing to Illinois, they won. I had them losing to Wisconsin, funny enough, which they lost. Had them beating Purdue, they won. Losing to UCLA, they won. And losing to Oregon, which they lost. I got 9 games right, 3 games wrong. I had the under 7.5 win total incorrect. But ultimately, like I said, great season for Washington. Talk to me about Washington, Trent.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said about the schedule. I mean, outside of that Wisconsin loss, you're not really looking at anything that was too major. Damon Williams, really good year, 3,000 passing yards, I believe 25 touchdowns or low 20s in touchdowns. Was kind of top 25 in the nation in a lot of passing stuff in categories, stat categories for passing. Like you said, there's some turmoil, kind of how he handled the NIL, but I think that's going to just be more of the world we live in thing as we navigate it as a society. But a lot to hang your hat on. A great season. I probably was wrong about them too. I don't think I had them quite as successful as they were, but that's just a testament to Jed Fish. I do believe they brought in a new defensive coordinator last season. I think that was Ryan Walters' first year, so shout out to him for.
Yeah, I think he was head coach of Purdue, right?
Yeah. So shout out to him for kind of turning Washington into a. I don't want to say defensive powerhouse because they certainly weren't a defensive powerhouse. They were more offensive than anything, but
helping turn up the defense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, shout out to him for at least keeping it, keeping it under control. And I have nothing but good things to say about Washington. Damon Williams, like I said, he's probably one of the more highly touted quarterbacks maybe in the Big Ten right now. So
he's a premier guy.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna take this team as far as they let him. I don't know too much about the surrounding pieces and what's coming in for the future, but
they lost a lot.
Yeah, they lost a lot. I know they had a pretty solid offensive line last year, which I think kind of stunk the year before, so that obviously helped Damon Williams out. But yeah, as long as they keep healthy in the trenches and Damon's protected, I think the future's bright for him, and they have nothing to be sad about for how they handled last season, other than that Wisconsin loss, which you said was probably just due to some bad weather and unfortunate breaks. Yeah.
So first of all, I'm gonna say shout out to Cario Davis and Vision Price Stop, both of the corners for Washington. Secondly, to answer your question, Damon Williams had 3,065 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to 8 picks. And then he also added 611 rushing yards and 6 more rushing touchdowns on the year. So really good year for Damon Williams at that front. And again, like you said, he's a premier guy. And not only in the Big Ten, I think he's a premier quarterback in college football in general. So definitely better figure out a way to win that locker room back because you are too talented. But we'll move on to the last team. and that is the Wisconsin Badgers. And the Badgers of Wisconsin actually did one game worse than I thought they would. I had Wisconsin missing a bowl game. I had them at 5-7, 3-6. They went 4-8, 2-7. I got 9 games right, 3 games wrong. 3 games I got wrong with the Maryland game. I had them winning and they lost. I had them beating Iowa and they lost, and I had them losing to Illinois, which, crazy enough, they won. So those are the 3 games I had wrong. I did get the under 5.5 win total correct. Again, they did not make a bowl game yet again. Last year they went 5-7, 3-6. This year they went 4-8, 2-7. So a step back of the last year. And I would have to say this is another bad year for the Wisconsin Badgers. And for those people that say that they were the beneficiaries of the Big Ten being divided in divisions, they are absolutely looking correct so far when it comes to the Wisconsin Badgers, because they are not able to relive any of that spark of those teams that made Big Ten championship appearances. So Wisconsin got a lot of things to figure out, just like UCLA. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about Wisconsin. Go ahead, Trent. Oh, I remember one wild take you had.
I'm gonna tell you about it right now.
Go ahead.
All right, yeah. So anyway, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I was completely wrong about Wisconsin. I think last year on the Big Ten show, we kind of came up with the idea that, like, my kind of sleeper team was Wisconsin and yours was Nebraska.
Facts.
And so we both, kind of didn't turn out great in that. You did a little better than I did. Wisconsin's weird, man. I don't even know the year now when Luke Fickell came aboard.
This is, I think, his 3rd season, because Jeff Brom, I believe in him. Like, Jeff Brom took Louisville. He came from Cincinnati. I can't remember. I think Scott Satterfield took Cincinnati. I want to say this would be his 3rd year, but I'm going to double check. Go ahead.
Yeah, so anyway, I just thought when Wisconsin hired Luke Fickell that it was such a slam dunk hire, and not to say that things can't get turned around still, especially in this world of NIL and transfers, but I've been waiting for Wisconsin to kind of get back to that 2010 to 2016 Big Ten championship appearances, like you were just talking about. They were a good premier Big Ten football team at one point, and they just kind of haven't gotten back to that promised land that I've expected them to. They started the season 2-0. They won 17-0 against Miami, Ohio, 42-10 against Middle Tennessee State. I was feeling good about myself. They had Bama week 3. I came on the show last year, and I said Wisconsin was going to beat Bama week 3. Now, to my defense, I did say they were going to beat Bama because it was going to be a down year for Bama. It was a down year for Bama, but it wasn't that down. But yeah, just got absolutely obliterated by Bama week 3, and then that started, I believe, a 6-game losing streak. So lost to Bama, lost to Maryland, who they absolutely should have not lost to, lost to Michigan, which is a formidable loss, but then got lost to Iowa 37-0, lost to Iowa State 34-0. Lost to Oregon 7-21. I mean, they had 3 weeks where they scored 7 points. And then, they did have a very tough schedule. They had a brutal schedule. But I thought they were going to be a team that, if anything, didn't have to win 9 games, but they were going to maybe win 7 or 8 and be competitive with some of these teams that ended up finishing, in the top 25 or within the top 25. But, yeah, I mean, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, 4 weeks in a row. That's a brutal schedule for anybody. Now, they did beat Washington 13-10, like we just talked about. So that was a good win for them. But, yeah, they just have quite not been able to get over that hump with Luke Fickell being there. I don't know what needs to take time or what's not taking time. But they just haven't figured it out. The quarterback last year, I believe, was still, I think, Billy Edwards Jr.
It was Billy Edwards, but then he got hurt in the Maryland game.
I was going to say, and then he got benched or got hurt. So, yeah, they just don't really have any stability in the lineup right now or in the program, and that's kind of what you need in today's game. So, disappointing season for them. like it's been since Luke Fickell's been there, really. So hoping that I'm rooting for him. I really am hoping they can turn it around, but it doesn't seem like they are. And when you go on a 6-game losing streak in the middle of the season, it's hard to, keep your players motivated, your fan base motivated, your boosters motivated, and all that. So he's got to figure something out quick.
He better, because like I was saying, this was his third. I was correct. This was his third full season with Wisconsin. That means year number 4 is coming up. And if nothing shakes and you miss 3 bowl games at Wisconsin, after, like you said, everybody and their mother thought this was a great hire, might be up out of there as a Wisconsin Badgers head coach. Their backups were Danny O'Neal and Hunter Simmons last year. I don't know why I kept wanting to say Tyler Van Dyke. I think Tyler Van Dyke was 2 years ago, but the 2024 season. But yeah, man. Bad year for Wisconsin yet again, and it was even worse for Fickell. Like we said, he took a step back this season, but he can lean his head. I don't know how much he can lean his head on Billy Edwards Jr. getting hurt, but I mean, gotta try something. But with that being said, that is every team in the Big Ten that we have reviewed. We have now moved on to our final standings. Which, Trent, do you have yours?
I do not.
If not, all right, I'll just go over mine real quick. So my standings went as follows. I had Penn State 1, Ohio State 2, Nebraska 3, Oregon 4, Indiana 5, Illinois 6, Michigan State 7, Michigan 8, Minnesota 9, Maryland 10, 11 was Iowa, 12 USC, 13 Wisconsin, 14 Northwestern, 15 Washington, 16 Rutgers, 17 UCLA, and the only one I got correct was Purdue at 18. Now, the actual standings went as follows. Indiana 1, I got Ohio State right at 2. Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, USC 4, Michigan 5, Iowa 6, Washington 7, Illinois 8. I got Minnesota at 9, correct? Minnesota 9, Nebraska 10, 11 Northwestern, 12 UCLA, 13 Penn State, 14 Rutgers, 15 Wisconsin, 16 Michigan State, 17 Maryland, and 18 Purdue. Now, my Big Ten championship before the actual season was Penn State and Ohio State, with Penn State winning. I believe that was yours too, correct?
I believe so, yep.
And then my players of the year, offensive side of the ball, my predicted player of the year was Nick Singleton, because it was going to be undefeated. And I didn't think it was going to be due to Drew Aller. I thought it was going to be due to the run game at Penn State. And my defensive player of the year, my actual defensive player of the year that I thought would win it was Dylan Thiemann, safety for Oregon, but who actually won it was Caleb Downs, Ohio State. And I even might have said that preseason that I might be biased because I like Dylan Thiemann a lot, even though Caleb Downs is a better player. It's just I love me some Dylan, but those were my projected and the actual Big Ten players of the year. So, Trent, do you remember yours or no?
I want to say I said Drew Aller, but I think that was the obvious cop-out.
It's all good, bro. It is all good. With that being said, Trent, I appreciate you coming on the show as always. Great episode. Any last words before we sign out?
No, I appreciate you having me. Always fun talking football with you, especially Big Ten. Looking forward to the preview show and the other shows you have coming out in the near future. So if you're not already, subscribe, like and follow Refuse to Lose Sports Network. And appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you for joining. Appreciate you, Vaughn, for being in the comments. And again, like Trent said, if you have not, please like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm going to have some words from Michigan State. Can we just please make a bowl game, bro? Please. I'm tired of this, but I'm not used to this. When I was at MSU, we made the playoffs. Now, did we get spanked in the playoffs? Absolutely. But we made it. Did we won the Rose Bowl. Like, we won the Cotton Bowl when I was at MSU. Like, we won New Year's 6 bowl games when I was at MSU. This sucks. This sucks. But nonetheless, appreciate you for coming on. Now, like Trent said, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Because not only does it help this channel, it helps the network because we have multiple shows on the network. We have the main show featuring Joe, Tomo, and Dave. They go live Mondays and Thursdays between 7 and 8:30, which they'll be going. I think they're going live again tomorrow. Shoot, they went live Sunday and Monday, so I'm pretty sure they'll be back Thursday. Unfazed, who I think they might be going live tomorrow too. They normally go live weekdays around 9:30, but it's just one day out the week. So that's featuring Joe and AJ. Talk about the playoffs because they even throwing some NFL topics in there. And we're getting close to June 1st, so I'm pretty sure AJ is going to be talking about the Eagles very shortly. So make sure you check them out. We have BWT, Baseball with Teddy, for all your baseball needs. Holla at Teddy. My Tigers are still disappointing me yet again. We can't get swept by the Guardians today if we lose because we play them tomorrow, but it's looking like we about to go down 3-0 to the Guardians. Injuries, bad offense, bad bullpen. It's just bad year for the Tigers, man. And I told Teddy in the preseason that we did nothing to improve. So while I did think we could possibly make the playoffs, I was very disappointed in the offseason that the Tigers had. But make sure you tune in to BWT. We have FCC football with Coach Coombs, rebranded from fantasy football with Coach Coombs. He will still talk fantasy football when the NFL regular season is going on, but he rebranded because if he was just fantasy football, it would be hard to talk football outside of that. And he wants to talk football year round. So great idea for him to rebrand. We have RBO, Real Ballers Only, featuring Vaughn. My Pistons went out sad Sunday. Got beat by like 30 in Game 7 in Detroit. They can no longer hurt me or take me on the emotional roller coaster. But he's been going crazy too, having shows during the playoffs. So for all your playoff and NBA needs, tune in to RBO Vaughn. We have Dave's Doghouse, highlights and lowlights of sport, the only show of its kind on the network. We have In the Red Corner featuring Tyreke and Tomo. We almost had an impromptu women's boxing match on Saturday night, but somebody got slapped and somebody's pressing charges. But if you want in the ring boxing match insight and things like that, tune into In the Red Corner. They go live on Sundays. Not every Sunday, but when they do go live, it is on Sundays around 6:30. We have Zero Sports Talk with Griffey, which he's like the wild card of R2L Sports. He drops episodes that are pre-recorded that he doesn't really go live, but he also talks about any and every sport. So he's done soccer, he's done baseball, he's done wrestling, talks about a lot. So make sure you tune in to Griffey. And the last show, a part of the R2L Network, we have AJ Birds, who went live recently, talking about the Eagles schedule. If you're an Eagles fan, want to hear about the Eagles, make sure you tune in to AJ Birds on Timeout, full Timeout. And that's all the shows. So please like, comment, subscribe to those as well. If you like what you're listening to, stick with us. With that being said, I will be back solo next Thursday to review my Big 12 predictions in the offseason. And then the week after, me and Joe have to talk because we will be previewing the SEC together. And I can kind of wait for that because South Carolina, what a disappointment. But we're gone. I'm about to go catch this Spurs Thunders game. Until next time, peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.